What is up, Sorare community? This is Keith Jameson, go back guy 231 in Sorare. I've tried really hard. I really have to keep Sorare Stateside at home on the computer. Yeah, here we are in my car, as a lot of my DFS content for people that know me from the DFS streets got to, and just the reality of life. Have a child on the way, a second kid on the way within a month. I work as a realtor here in Tampa Bay, and it's just been crazy. So for me to get this content out and to get something that I truly love, like I love doing these Sorare Stateside videos and just talking Sorare, talking MLS. So this is what we got. So let's just jump right into what I'm going to be doing today. Stock up, stock down, and then a new little segment of don't panic. So guys that I would not be, just because of their bad performance so far this year, that I would not be panic selling on. Not only because I think they'll come good, but the values that they're at. So stock up. First guy, Brandon Vasquez. And as a disclaimer, once again, I'll own some of these players. I won't own them. I'm trying to do my best to not let my own gallery or my own players skew my opinions. I got plenty of my own guys on stock down, but stock up Brandon Vasquez. I think it's a crazy time of year when the fact that I've seen people talking about him as an early season MVP candidate, but there's no doubt he's been sensational for Cincinnati. It's 4 goals in the last 2 games. He drew a PK that Luciano Acosta absolutely butchered, which was terrible for my lineups because I had Luciano Acosta and Brandon Vasquez. But he has, I think it's either 1 or 2 assists. It's just been awesome in so much of the talk of the U23 forward for Cincinnati was Brenner. It's been Brandon Vasquez that's shown up. He just looks really good too. I got to watch most of that Cincinnati game versus Miami, and he was just showing up all over the place. So Brandon Vasquez, huge stock up. I think he's still under 0.4 as a rare forward. I only own his super rare, which I got for a great deal. I think there could be some upside at 0.4. He has some really good fixtures coming. That's just one thing I will mention with Cincinnati. I bought like a mini Cincinnati stack before last week, but they're at Charlotte this weekend, where the MLS has very little games, so that should drive some momentum. And they're home for Montreal, which is another great matchup. Then gets a little hairy, but I think Cincinnati, the one thing we've seen is they're going to score goals. So Brandon Vasquez, huge stock up. Jesus Ferreira, I think he's a largely stock up because his stock was falling so much at the beginning of the season. We know he lost sets. His AA, definitely suffered a bit, but was still sneaky okay. Still in like that 8 to 14 range, which as like a striker, that's really good. Shows you the quality of Jesus Ferreira, but blew up in a huge way versus Portland at home. 3 goals and an assist. 100 spot for a forward, not on sets. Nothing to discard. I think we all know Jesus Ferreira's talent level. He should get a really good look for the USA national team this week. But Jesus Ferreira is just an awesome player. I think, like PSU fans had said on the Sorare Data strategy show, Sean had mentioned, Jesus Ferreira, when you're looking at this U23 forward outlook this summer, it is really hairy. Now, at that time, we didn't know Brandon Vasquez, but I think Brandon Vasquez, is a great option for it. But Jesus Ferreira, I think is, up there with Julian Alvarez as being the alpha U23 forward this summer. So, I think I've seen him in that 0.8, 0.85 range. Obviously, that's not for every budget, but, if you are a serious U23 competitor, he is somebody to look at. Pablo Ruiz, I did not mean for this. I just realized I did not mean for this to be a U23 show. Pablo Ruiz, another U23 mid. He is just banging out scores like ridiculously well. And, going back to that Sorare Data strategy show like months ago, I want to say 9 months ago, they were talking about one of the ideal Sorare players are these defensive mids. So these guys that kind of will drop deep, get on the ball, spray some passes around, and also get set pieces. That's where you see a guy like Jack Price was awesome. Medran was awesome. Pablo Ruiz, I'm blanking on another one right now. So apologies, but Pablo Ruiz is that guy, and he happens to be U23. I think a lot of us at Salt Lake, and myself included, Salt Lake would be really bad. Salt Lake's been pretty decent, to the point that Pablo Ruiz is getting a lot of set opportunities. He is like a very, very active tackler. I actually really enjoy watching him. He just sticks his foot in on everything. He had a pretty aggressive tackle, then all of a sudden pops up and leads to a shot versus Nashville. I think that it was almost like a surprise how aggressively he went in and got all ball. I just like the player a ton. I think he might still be a little underpriced. I've seen him right in that like 0.31 range. I think it's still a pretty good buy for a guy that's a locked-in starter. He's going to get you set pieces. He's just going to get you a high floor, so he's going to be in the 50s. And then with decisives, has chances at 80s. So it's a really, really awesome player. Big stock up for Pablo Ruiz. Now, the next two do not have Sorare cards, but are going to, hopefully soon. Karol Swiderski, the striker from Charlotte. If I screwed up his name, apologies. But I think he was one of the performers of the weekend, bagging 2 goals versus the Revs. Was awesome outside of that. I got to see bits and pieces of the game, but he definitely was showing up over and over when I watched. Also, SOFA score rating of 9.3, which is pretty crazy for a striker. Polish international. He is one of Charlotte's few DPs. Look, I think we're getting further away from Charlotte being this just, USL level team or this like rec league level team, which I think a lot of reports were making us think before the season, like especially at home, especially that crowd. Charlotte is going to be sneaky. Like, I'm not so in love with my Cincy stack this weekend. I still think they're going to give up opportunities, which we've seen. But Charlotte could be sneaky. It's definitely going to sneak up some people. And, when they score goals, I think, I always talk about it in DFS, the time to play a striker is when a goal notification comes up and you're like, oh my God, that guy is going to be involved. So, like with the Revolution, like not being a Carlos Gil owner, every time the Revolution gets a score goal, I'm like, oh God, it's going to be Gil scoring it or an assist, like something to wreck me. And I think for Charlotte, that's Karol Swiderski, so I'm a big fan of his. And then finally, I can't remember if I brought him up in Stock Up, Stock Down a few weeks ago or just another segment, but I think Daniel Gazdag, like, I hope that people just like see his name and don't know much about him and he just like does not go super expensive. Gazdag is awesome. Like, he's been really good for Philadelphia ever since he got there mid-season last year. Started the season out with 3 goals. He's on PKs. He takes some sets. He plays as like a number 10 role. I think a lot of Paxton Aronson owners really wish that that Gazdag wasn't so good so that Paxton could get in there. But it's just been awesome all season. He's a Hungarian international as well. Just a really, really class player. And if like he ends up coming out in the sub, in like that 0.3 range, I think he's a steal. He's doing so much of what Jamiro Montero did for Philadelphia with just a lot more offense and a lot more decisive upside. So really like Daniel Gazdag. Stock down right away. One of my guys. First guy on it. Emmanuel Reynoso. It's been absolutely not good this season for Minnesota United. Watched more Minnesota United than I care to admit because of Reynoso. He had the absolute stone nuts matchup at home versus San Jose, and he barely got over, his 35. What did he end with, like 36? Losing the ball all over the place. One of the things I thought was just really interesting, I don't know if this is him forcing it or just thinking too much, but he's like not taking the easy passes. Like there was multiple occasions where, he had a chance to, hit Amarillo, who had been like one-on-one with the last defender, and he's like trying to go for like a no-look pass or like a back heel to load or something like that, and it's just like every single time it's like the pass is right in front of you, like you're one of the best passers in the MLS, like what are you doing? And over and over again just getting it taken from him or just errant passes. So it almost seems like to me like almost over forcing his role. Not a good place to be. So Emmanuel Reynoso, no decisive so far this season. Still on a majority of sets. I think there could be some opportunity in him, but he absolutely has to be leading stock down. Miles Robinson, holy crap. I almost bought him for this weekend. I'm kind of glad I didn't. So not only does he get fresh off the red card, but then he gets penalty conceded this weekend. Atlanta has to be on the list for like holy crap teams, like in not a good way. Now, losing Arroyo, having all the visa issues they have, I think not having Santiago Sosa right in front to shield This back line is a big deal. Like, Ozzy Alonso, I don't think is near, like, the heights of Alonso. Like, back to when he was in Seattle and just an amazing, number 6. But Miles Robinson is not looking like a USA defender. Like, an international guy in the MLS should not be going from red card to penalty conceded in back-to-back games. And back-to-back, like, okay matchups at home. So, Miles Robinson, to me, big stock down. Tim Melia, I've been worried about Tim Melia since the offseason when I actually sold him. I think John's Pulskamp is a very, very legitimate backup. And, Tim Melia, in my opinion, needed to start the season out like really well and just command that job. He's been a great MLS keeper for years, but he's getting up there in age. When you've got like one of these super talented, younger, homegrown guys behind you, I think you really got to kind of like announce to everybody, like, I am the keeper. Like, this is my job. And Melia has not done that. Just had, Opta gave him an air-led goal. I saw the goal. It was a very, very soft goal. Allowing 3 to Chicago. What was it? 2 to Atlanta. Like, KC's defense as a whole has been terrible. Yes, they're missing Gadi Kinda, which is a big deal. But, KC should be in the running for one of the best teams in the West. And for them to be conceding goals left and right, Melia not going, out of his way to help bail out the team, I just think it's a bad sign. He's not somebody that I want to own right now. I saw him even with this weekend, even like on an island weekend when there's only 5 MLS keepers out there, his price is dropping. I've seen him at below 0.3 ETH right now. John's Pulskamp, his backup on the other hand, well over 0.3 being U23. It's definitely a little nerve-wracking if you're a Melia holder, so he's stocked down for me. Sticking in goalies, I'm going to mention 3 more. Earl Edwards, I would want no part of. Matt Turner's coming back soon. Earl Edwards, the rails that completely fell off. I had him stock up a couple weeks ago on his really good form going, maybe New England doesn't need a new keeper. They absolutely do. Earl Edwards is not the guy at this point. So big time stock down for Earl Edwards. If you are sitting on positive equity on Earl Edwards, offload. Clement Jop, out for 6 to 8 weeks. Marsman will be back. That is not a card to hold right now. I don't have his price on me. I've been saying, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks, get off after that first game. That was going to be about as good as it can get. And on top of that, I would just be sitting there wondering, do you really want a piece of this Inter Miami team? Like, they're going to give up a ton of goals. Like, Cincinnati should have had like 5 or 6 goals, like, easy. And that's Cincinnati. Inter Miami could easily be the worst team in the MLS. I think I prefer Charlotte to them. So I don't really want a part of much Inter Miami at all. Maybe Higuain, maybe, until he tunes out. But I don't want any part of that defense. So Clement Jop, big stock down. And finally, this might be a surprising one, but I'm putting David Ochoa on the stock down alert. I meant to put Zach McMath on stock up alert. There's like a legit shot, in my opinion, legit shot, that McMath might keep the job when Ochoa is back. Ochoa's been rumored ever since, declaring for Mexico, kind of rumored that he could be an MX guy. Would make sense for, potentially, I don't know if he's going to pass Acevedo, but potentially a guy that is trying to be the Mexican national team starter to play in Liga MX. But Zach McMath has been awesome. Zach McMath, with Marcelo Silva out, was actually given the captain's armband last game. That's a big deal. You like a backup guy that's just in there for a week. I don't think you're giving him the armband. Teammates raved about him. He was one of the biggest reasons they beat Nashville at home. So I think Zach McMath has done enough to keep that job. And if I'm a David Ochoa holder, I've paid over 1 ETH for this U23 keeper I'm waiting for. I'm definitely sweating it out a little bit. That could also be an opportunity, right? That because there's some panic going on, that you could get Ochoa. I saw a sale, I think, today for like 0.8, which is really cheap for a U23 guy, especially a teenager. But I definitely have my trepidations with David Ochoa, so stock down. Finally, my don't panic meter. 5 guys I would not panic about. 1 I already spoke to, Luciano Acosta, which I have seen some panic sells. So, missed the PK last week. Just before then, had missed they got a blown big chance missed on a header, which I thought there was a lot to do on the header, but what he could have also done is laid it off to Brenner, who was sitting with an open net. Luciano Acosta, here's the reason not to panic. Leads the MLS in key passes at this point. Not Carlos Gil, not Lucas Zelleran, it's Luciano Acosta. Those will come good. You keep creating chances. Those will come good. So I own a copy. I'm not panicking. Luciano Acosta, I think, is a good not panic candidate. Shaqiri finally got his first goal. I think one of the most promising things on Shaqiri, and the reason he's on here is we haven't seen like the crazy scores from this former Bayern player, former Liverpool player, all these big leagues. People are paying 0.6, 0.7. We aren't seeing the big numbers from him. Finally did good against Sporting Kansas City with the PK, but him being on PKs is number one, I think, a really good thing, because that's another out. I thought it would have been Casper. I'm not going to say his name right. Proszelko? We'll see how close that is. But on almost monopoly set pieces, playing a free role, Chicago, one of the things they got right before the season, Chicago a little frisky. Kind of a nice little team there. But Shaqiri looks decent, and he's staying healthy. So, and he plays in the East. So all those things, if I was holding Shaqiri, there's no way I'm getting off that card right now. I'm definitely rolling it out there, and I think we're going to see some big numbers coming soon as he gets more and more acclimated to the league. Jack Price, another guy, was brought up earlier in the Pablo Ruiz. He's not getting the decisive, but he's still putting up floor games. Colorado has not had the easiest start to the schedule, but Jack Price is going to keep cranking you 55, 60s. Maybe if you got in at the wrong time and you paid 0.5 or 0.6, you're just like, man, this isn't what I paid for it, and you probably overpaid a little bit. But Jack Price is a solid, 0.4, 0.5 guy that's going to start every game, is going to take all the set pieces, is going to get defensive stats, is going to do a lot for you when the decisive comes. His scores are going to be big. So Jack Price, definitely a guy that I would still love to own, and should be on your radar if you're looking for maybe a buy low, or if you own, definitely not something I'm selling low. Johnny Russell has seen almost his price decrease in half. He's back in training yesterday. He has had a terrible start to the season. All of Sporting Kansas City has had a terrible start to the season. Johnny Russell had a terrible start to last season. Maybe we learned with Johnny Russell that he's like a James Harden, or maybe that's not a great example. Like a Luka Doncic, if you will call it NBA, where he always shows up out of shape, but then plays himself into shape. Maybe that's what Johnny Russell does. He still ended the season as the number one forward in the MLS last year. Sporting Kansas City has had a terrible start. Their schedule is going to get better. They're going to get more home games. I think one of the biggest things is getting Gotti Kinda back will bring a lot more creativity into the team. I am not panicking about Johnny Russell. And finally, I would not be panicking. There's a guy sold a while back for a lot less than he's still paying for. But I'm hoping I get a lot of people not watching this and will panic sell on Hani Mukhtar, because when Nashville gets back at home and is playing a ton of home games, I want Hani Mukhtar. I've watched a number of Nashville games. He still looks very, very dangerous, getting into a lot of spots, getting a lot of shots off. He finally got an assist. I think he has 2 assists this year, no goals, but they will come. I think he looks really good. I think Nashville is a team that if they kind of continue to struggle a bit, people are going to be off on them because they've started playing so many away games, and they're going to round into form. I would definitely like to have a Hani Mukhtar. Definitely something I'm going to be looking at up here in the future. Maybe have one more bad game, take his price down a little bit more, snatch one up before we get this long run of home games and he starts smashing. All right, that'll do it for the show. Please interact, subscribe, comment if you enjoy this video and this content. Also, feel free to drop comments. I do answer as many as I can. You can also find me at GatorGuy231 on Discord and Twitter if you want to catch things there. I always love to hear ideas for new content, or just any opinions that you have. Good takes that I had, bad takes. What the hell are you thinking here? All of that is game. Thank you all so much for watching. With that, I'll say, see you.